Hello, everybody. This is Million Dollar Media. I'm your host, Max Kellerhalls, and today I'm with my good friend Nick Spiro.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Um, uh, so yeah, how's your day been so far, Nick?
It's been pretty good. It's lightened up. It started off pretty gloomy and everything outside, but I'm glad to see that we're out of that and more sunshine out.
That's good. That's good. My day's been hectic, just with getting everything started and I have a class where for almost 2 hours it is straight up note taking,
Ooh,
and your hand cramps by the end of it. It is nuts.
definitely.
Yeah.
Those are the ones where it's aggravating and you just want to get through it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's international finance, so just a lot of formulas, graphs, all sorts of things, and
All those fun things.
yeah. But you got to do it because the tests are freaking hard.
For sure.
Yeah. So, we're gonna get off the top. We're gonna be getting into some news, and one pretty big news is James Gunn on his Twitter and also other social medias has just confirmed that the actor Will Poulter will be playing Adam Warlock on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yes.
Now, this is huge because it was set up in the post-credit scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. They didn't they didn't show who was going to play him, but they did do a name drop of Adam. And for the longest time, people thought he was going to show up in Infinity War or in Endgame because Adam Warlock in the comics has been a key player in a bunch of the Infinity War stuff. So having him not be in any of the movies, and now for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I'm really curious to see what they are going to do with him, especially with James Gunn.
For sure. I think James Gunn he is very not a typical director. So he kind of takes those experimental routes and everything like that. So it's interesting to see where he might go with this new introduction of Adam Warlock. And I'm actually excited to see Will Poulter star as him because I know him in a comedian sense from Where the Millers, or he was in. I just looked up his name or his IMDb last night, and I saw that he was also in Narnia, Voyage of the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, when he was a kid.
The forgotten Narnia sequel.
For sure.
Yeah, he's a very interesting actor because he started off with comedic roles. So but then from what I mostly know him for now is a lot of his more serious roles. He was in a movie called Detroit. It was a movie about the Detroit riots in I can't remember the exact date, but he played a cop, and he was the scariest human being in that movie because he was just one of those cops who just it was a great acting performance that made you want to hate him. So I'm really excited to see him play this character, and it's also a character with a lot of weight behind him. He's a heavy hitter when it comes to Marvel Comics. So I have no idea what they're gonna do for him. Are they gonna make him the bad guy? Because Adam Warlock kind of plays this gray kind of hero where he'll help the heroes, but he's kind of all for the means justify the ends kind of hero. So he really doesn't care about the little things in life. So especially with how they set up his race in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I think it was called the Sovereign, the Gold People. I'm really curious to see how James Gunn's going to portray him because it could poke fun at the Jesus kind of character. You know what I mean? Where it's just, oh, let's poke fun at the guy who just thinks he's all full of himself, which could be really funny. It's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to do this character. Do you have any other thoughts on the situation as a whole?
Well, I definitely think it is going to be interesting how we saw them as kind of very full of themselves. They're also very literal.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that and seeing how they created Adam as a weapon to get revenge on the Guardians for Rocket stealing those power converters.
And also just making fools out of themselves in general.
Making fools. So seeing him as used as a weapon, but then possibly having that like kind of like character arc where he realizes he's better than what his race is, and kind of like goes solo.
Yeah.
So because his powers include immortality, cosmic knowledge, so he kind of like knows things that other people don't. He's a very powerful Marvel character. So it'll be interesting on how James might take that approach with him. Will he? Because James has a very comedic approach. We've seen that like in his previous works, as well as in the new Suicide Squad movie.
But yeah, it is a very comedic approach, but he also is really good at taking moments that are meant to be serious. Like, there are some really like heartfelt moments in the first two Guardians and the recent Suicide Squad, and just in his work as a whole. I don't know if you've seen this one movie that he did called Super.
I have not seen Super yet. No.
Oh, it's nuts. The basic premise of Super is just some regular schlubby guy there's a literal scene where he gets touched by the thumb of God and thinks of himself to become a superhero and rescue his druggy girlfriend. And the movie is basically poking fun at the idea of like just regular people becoming superheroes, and not in like a kick-ass kind of way, more in like where in Kick-Ass it's very hyper real,
right?
And like, well, they're kind of regular people, but one girl's like a murderer or something like that. This is just a guy with a wrench going around hitting people that he thinks are bad, and it's kind of that is really dark comedy. But bottom line, the movie has some really heartfelt moments when like the guy's realizing what he's doing, which I kind of hope for the Adam Warlock stuff. Just, this big, powerful being realizing that he needs to be more human, or at least some kind of humanity, because this is all aliens and stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I love the casting. I think one interesting note is that Will Poulter was almost gonna play Pennywise.
Really?
Yeah. The whole It movie, the first one at least, it took a while to like get off the ground, and many directors come and go and everything like that. The director beforehand was this director named Cary Fukunaga. I think that's how you saying his name. But he recently did the new James Bond movie. But he was tapped to do It, and he wanted Will Poulter, but he had some ideas that the studio didn't want, and so there was a falling out where he went from director to executive producer, and then I think his name is Andy Muschietti came in and did the It movie, and they changed out the actor for Bill Skarsgård, and the rest is history. And I like Bill Skarsgård's portrayal, but it would have been interesting to see Will Poulter as Pennywise, because again, he has this scary seriousness, but he can be funny too.
Definitely. Will Poulter has that like smile, that like kind of I can see him now that you say it, play Pennywise. He has that like ability to. So it would have been interesting seeing his take on that as well.
Also, for those who are into meme culture, the Will Poulter is the meme of confused looking teenager with like a little buck teeth, red hair, and like a striped yellow and white shirt. I think that's the meme. That's from We're the Millers, and he plays the, I don't know what's wrong with him, and I don't want to start guessing, but he plays a troubled teen. Looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with that character.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to our main topic of this week, which is the review for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This is a sequel to the 2018 film Venom, full star Tom Hardy. This one stars Woody Harrelson, Naomi Harris, and I forgot the blonde girl's name. Okay, well, she's in both. The plot is, after the first movie, Eddie and Venom are trying to figure stuff out and see how these two separate beings can live in one body together. And while that's going on, Eddie is trying to do a report on the serial killer Cletus Cassidy, played by Woody Harrelson. And through some means or another, a symbiote gets into Cletus Cassidy, thus becoming Carnage, and he breaks out of prison. and that's pretty much the whole plot of the movie. Like, it's a very short movie, only like an hour and a half, which is
Definitely.
short for a lot of different superhero movies nowadays, and just movies in general, where they're kicking up to almost 3 hours long. So, how did I feel about this movie? I, as a comic book nerd, I had fun. As a movie fan, I think this definitely has some problems. I think it has just like pacing problems. I feel like there's just scenes out of this movie just taken out for time, just to get it down to an hour and 30. And the whole Venom and Carnage fight that you really want to look forward to and you came to the movie to see, you only get it at the very end. And it's a good fight, and like just how creative they do with both symbiotes, but I don't know if I would go see this movie again, or like really be wanting to see this movie again. Maybe I'll watch some scenes off YouTube, but I don't feel like buying this on Blu-ray, or if it comes on a streaming service, wanting to see this. It's a weird movie. And like, we'll go into it later in the spoilers, but I kind of want to hear what you have to think about this, Nick.
Well, so I came in the movie with kind of like little to no expectations of how things would go. I saw the first one. I enjoyed the first one a lot better than what critics would have to say about it and how other fans thought of it. I thought of it as a very good movie. It was a good start. Mm-hmm. Not typical, because there's the connection between Spider-Man and Venom, which basically is why he's like the form he is. Mm-hmm. So it's different. It's interesting to see a way of how Venom came to be without Spider-Man. So that's definitely something that's new. And Andy Serkis as a director, he's a really good director from his other works as well. So it was interesting to see his perspective on it all. And now leading into the second one, it takes place a few months after, which I thought would be the best place to like start the next one. Glad to see it's not like years after or something.
True.
So,
I will have to point you out that the first one wasn't directed by Andy Serkis.
Oh, it was not?
It was actually made by the guy who did Zombieland. I think his name Ruben Fleischer. Ruben Fleischer did the first one, and he's a producer on this one, but they switched him out for Andy Serkis.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that way we don't get people like commenting on us like wrong director.
No, that's my mistake.
No, that's fine.
But Andy Serkis in the second one, though,
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting seeing his perspective on it as well. I do feel like it started off somewhat slow, but once like action started moving and everything, it seemed very good. It seemed like underlying messages in there, like stuff that like we as like audiences probably won't get from just this movie. It's like setting itself up for another thing in the future, which just like with like the dialogue and how like Venom and
Carnage.
Not Carnage.
Oh.
Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking
Eddie?
of Eddie Brock.
Okay,
Eddie Brock. How they are like they squabble a lot because like they're a old married couple kind of way.
Yeah, it's very much a odd couple, even downright like to a point like I don't know if this is just me reading into it, but it really felt like a homosexual kind of relationship. Especially a particular scene.
I can see how like that can be interpreted, and I mean I didn't take it that way. Mm-hmm. If you think it's that way, like it's all based on perspective and everything like that. I thought of it more as like kind of like a brotherhood bond kind of thing, and because like I'm trying to think of like it as like I don't know, as like something compared to. Who am I thinking of? Like Rush Hour, where it's like Jackie Chan,
like a buddy cop.
Buddy cop kind of thing.
Okay.
I thought of it as a buddy cop kind of film, and how like their relationship was a buddy cop kind of thing. Because like Venom can't be without Eddie to move around and be who he wants to be, but then he also wants to help Eddie to make sure that his life is better.
Yeah, I definitely see your point with that, and I honestly think the Eddie and Venom relationship in this movie is probably the thing that makes this, at least in my opinion, a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. Well, I really shouldn't say good because there's just a lot of like problems that I had with this that are just like down to story and script. But I think what at least keeps the movie like from going like trash is that Tom Hardy commits to this character and to Eddie and Venom. It's so crazy how they just the relationship and the weird moments. There's some downright hilarious moments between the two, and the reason why I saw it as like a more than just like friends kind of relationship is that there's moments where, well, I'll say that Venom maybe likes Eddie more than Eddie likes Venom in that way, where it's more of a one-sided relationship where one really needs the other to survive. But I do like and this is all just from Tom Hardy's performance where you can infer this. And that's why I really liked it, and that's what, again, holds the movie up for me. It's just, when going into a Venom versus Carnage kind of movie, I wasn't expecting to get an odd couple movie.
Definitely. Not what you expect from a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And another thing, going off of how you say like Tom Hardy commits and everything, Tom Hardy also plays the voice of Venom.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just like it's again just one actor working off of himself to do it. It's almost like a one-man show.
Exactly.
And that's what I really liked about the movie.
For sure. That was like, it was literally like kind of like how it's like two personalities in one person, and the fact that like we can see that happen and see like how Tom Hardy can play that so well. It's amazing to see that like play out.
Just Tom Hardy's just in general a great actor.
Definitely.
And I'm so glad that he really wants to do more with Venom. And I want to go back to a point that you made before about how this movie seems to be like setting up something. That's, I think, one of my biggest problems with the movie is that I feel like this movie's just trying to get to the end to set something else up. But like as a fan of both characters, I really just wanted them to like feel the weight of like Carnage. Because I honestly thought like Carnage was a bit of a letdown on this movie, and Cletus Cassidy, because maybe it's the PG-13 rating, or maybe it's just that they weren't like willing to go to areas with the character in a PG-13 kind of sense. It feels neutered. like
I get where you're coming from that, and I'm starting to realize that as well. Like it feels like there were points where like they kind of like they had all this build up, and then it was just like not as good like as a climax point. It was just like kind of like all the build up, and then there was no climax. So I completely understand that. And then also like with Venom and Carnage in the comics, like they are more profanity based, and they're definitely, and they are more like out there like in violence and everything. So yeah, I think like the PG-13 rating kind of like neutered that in a sense, but
because Carnage is the equivalent to Marvel's Joker.
Definitely.
Because Carnage is just crazy. He maniacally laughs. He has this, in the comics at least, he's supposed to have this really high-pitched voice. And it's just this idea of, like, what if you're, like, typical serial killer, like your Ed Gein, I think his name is, or, like, Charlie Manson kind of killer, just gained superpowers, and how scary that would be for like people in general, and especially Venom's power where it can literally morph its body into weapons and stabby pointy objects. It's a very scary idea, and that's what like that's what I like about Carnage, is just that it's not really about like his character personality. It's just when Carnage is on the scene, the room or like the panel or the comic kind of changes, where it's just like, okay, we got to stop what we're worrying about. We got to worry about that guy. Because if that gets out of hand, everybody's screwed. And I felt like it, and I didn't get that feeling in this movie because I thought that they were just doing jokes with the character, or at least they didn't do Carnage in how it is in the books, where Carnage and Cletus aren't separate personalities really. They are their own. They basically, instead of like the Venom and Vetti when they're we are Venom, he is just I am Carnage. Mm-hmm. They work so well together that there's no more Cletus Cassidy, and Carnage isn't its own personality. They are just one, and they don't do that in this movie, and that kind of let me down because that is another really big important part of the character to me. I don't know. What do you think about that point?
Well, I think it really helped the Eddie and Venom story. It really did because like throughout the movie, like we see this like there's this conflict between the two of them. They're squabbling a lot. They're not in sync as they want to be. Mm-hmm. And the fact that like Carnage and Cletus Cassidy, they're not in sync as well. Mm-hmm. It kind of shines light on the perspective, and it helps the plot a lot. Mm-hmm. The fact that like they're separate. Mm-hmm. And not as one. Mm-hmm. It shows like how it adds to the plot. So I think that was like really, I think it was important to it, mm-hmm. Important to the storyline. I see as like as a comic book enthusiast, like that is like something like that you don't want to see, mm-hmm. But maybe like I know this isn't the end because there's already talks about Venom 3, yeah, and everything like that. So I think like they're just like they're working with the character. Mm-hmm. It's experimental in a way.
I can definitely see how this is being more experimental. It is both a standard comic book movie that we've been getting recently, a superhero movie, but also with the elements of like the relationship between Eddie and Venom. It's not, because they really go into it, and that again, that's what I liked about it, and that's why. I don't know, but just the comic book elements just felt really stale, and there was stuff that you could have done with it. And going on to your point of like showing the light on, since Carnage and Cletus are separate, I actually thought if you made them as one, I think it would have been better and still helped the story, because you could do the idea of like, look, these guys are working together symbiotically, and they're causing chaos. We need to come together, like settle our differences and figure out what is best for not us, but for everybody around us. And that is kind of like what they were trying to do in the movie, because it was about like, hey, we gotta like settle our differences because this is gonna be a big thing. It's more about coming together to basically be the better couple than this other person. It felt like a weird like couple fight, which I guess makes sense for what Venom and Carnage are, but you know, I guess I just wanted something different, and I know that like you have to review stuff as what it is and not what you want it to be. Exactly. I just thought that with the material you have, that is not that hard to adapt, and I've seen it done in like the animated Spider-Man series from the 90s at least. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite Carnage. I've seen some video games do Carnage pretty well. It was just something I was looking forward. It was a bit of a letdown for me. So yeah, if you were to rate this movie, what would you give it? Like, I want to hear your rating and I'll say mine.
I would give it a 7.5 because had some missing parts. Story, like, it felt like there were little plot holes and stuff. But overall, I mean, it was a fun movie to watch. Like, even not as a like comic book nerd and everything like that, I thought of it as like it had very good visually appealing shots and everything.
That's true.
Like the one in the trailer with the glass scene and like in the chapel and everything. Mm-hmm. Beautiful shot, yeah. Beautiful cinematography. I will say, like, I feel like the CG in this movie, this may also go down to like who Andy Serkis is. For those who don't know, Andy Serkis is he's very famous for motion capture more than he is directing. He's Smeagol or Gollum, depending on who you talk to. He is Caesar from Planet of the Apes, or at least the 3 recent ones, and also he was King Kong. He was King Kong in Peter Jackson's King Kong, which was in 2005. I want to say 2005. Are you talking about the older one? Because he was also in Kong Skull Island.
Was he?
He was the motion capture for Khan.
Okay. I thought it was someone else. Okay, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because one, he's just a really good like actor with his body. Recent pretty famous live action roles he was Claw in Black Panther, and I love him as Claw.
I loved him as Claw too.
I thought that character was really funny and like also kind of like this weird menacing type. But yeah, Andy Serkis, really cool guy too, really nice, and I thought his direction was fine for this movie, but it really felt like, hey Andy, we need you to come and do this. Can you do this real quick and do this movie? And it felt like, yeah, I can do it, and just really nice. He wanted to do it. I feel like he's a comic book fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I would say he's a good comic book fan. Like, and I think he works well with Tom Hardy.
Definitely.
But yeah, I will going to that point of him being a CG master. I felt like there were moments in this movie where I did really feel like Venom was an actual character by the way he moved. Like, I think I'll go into spoilers about this, but there's a moment where like the like simplest things that like humans do, you could see in Venom, and I thought that was really cool, and was like, oh, this feels like something like a gooey real character and not just CG mass at some points. And I really like that, and just the way they play with that. But personally, I would give this movie a 6 out of 10. It's not my favorite. I don't think I'm gonna come back to this anytime soon. But there are some elements that we'll get to real quick in spoilers that are gonna make you hyped. And I have a fun story about at least my theater going experience when I saw this particular scene. So, for those listening, we're going to go into spoilers for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This will be the end of the show for you. Thank you for listening. Listen to us on the Wave Radio. Listen to Wave Radio in general. There's tons of great shows here on the website. If you're listening through my YouTube channel, thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for listening to $1 Million Media, and have a good night. Okay, for those of you who are still listening, we are going into spoilers. So what do you want to talk about first?
Let's start with the movie itself.
Okay.
And then, like, go into the post-credit scene and everything like that.
Okay, yeah.
So, starting off, overall, like, the lines were amazing and everything like that. Like, in the movie, I thought, like...
What was your favorite line? Or, like, funny Venom line? Mine would have to be the moment where I think the character's Anne's telling him that she's getting married to Dan.
Yes.
And there's a moment where Venom literally just goes, "Cry, Eddie, I'm going to make you cry." and it's all like in his head and everything. And it really reminds me of like going online with your friends, playing a video game or something like that, and they're like getting in your head and telling you like to get emotional, like, "Oh, you poor baby," like that kind of thing. I thought that was it was probably my favorite line in the movie.
That was definitely a funny scene. I thought of it as like kind of like a subconscious kind of thing, like how we are on the outside versus how we are on the inside.
Yeah.
Like on the inside, we're like, oh shit, like just like we're like kind of like in our own heads about that. So I thought it was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I would say my favorite line is when Venom first sees Carnage, and he's like, "That's a red one. We don't mess with those." I thought like that was perfect because like it really like in the comics the red ones are bad. The red ones you stay away from in symbiotes. So it was really funny, and it really like reflects on how in the symbiote culture, like how they like how there's the different levels and everything like that.
I kind of got like I inferred like red ones are at least like ones mixed with humans.
Yes.
Because it's like in the movie how Cletus gets the symbiote from Venom is that he bites Eddie, and both Eddie and Venom's blood are kind of mutated at this point.
Right.
So you see like little tendrils come out from like a little bit of blood, and he just licks it, and that's pretty much how he gets it. I mean, that's fine. It's how it is in the books, where it's like or a little bit of the symbiote kind of is left on the prison, and that's how Cletus gets it. Totally fine with that. Didn't bother me at all.
I actually liked how they kept that true because I mean like it seemed more like they wanted it to like be
A father-son fight.
yeah.
I had a problem with that personally, because that is from the books, but I wish they would have set that up earlier instead of at the final moments of the film, because it literally comes out of nowhere with the whole father, and I was just like, oh, we're doing that. Why didn't we set this up earlier? Like Carnage seeing Venom as a father, and like I thought that would have meant more jokes where it's just like Venom could have like been like, I have a kid out there. How does this feel? Or like, we have a kid, Eddie. And like I thought that would have been funny to do, or just like, and also like drama related, like, hey, this is our fault. We have to figure it out. But no, it's just kind of left to the end.
Right.
At least that idea and that whole like rivalry of why they hate each other is just left to the end. That's kind of what bothered me about it. Another thing of why I don't think they did Carnage all too well. I think the look of Carnage in the movie, perfect.
Exponential.
Mm-hmm.
He like it's really interesting to see like the difference between Carnage and Venom, because Venom is this like kind of buff, muscular guy, and Carnage is like very skinny, but he's agile. He's very like sly.
It's like comparing a bull to a wolf.
Definitely.
Where one's more like, it's faster, it's all about food, whereas a bull is like bulkier and like big and imposing. It's still fast too, but it's also a lot calmer.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much to spoil in this movie. I will say I really liked how Venom took out Cletus and Carnage. Maybe not Carnage all too much, because I thought that was just like, oh, okay, just eat him, done.
Right.
But I did like the joke at the end with when like Cletus is giving his final words, and then
I'm trying to remember it right now.
okay, yeah, it was he has him like dead to rights, and like Cletus is like, I just wanted you to be my friend,
right,
and all that, and like Eddie being the more like reasonable one's like, no, sorry, and then Venom thing, and just like goes, fuck this guy, and just eats him.
Right.
I laughed my ass off, because that is one trope in movies where you either love it or hate it. I'm indifferent with it, where it's just like, alright, let him speak, kill him, done. And like, alright, poo-hoo, the bad guy died. But I just like that in this one, like, you're a serial killer, like, who cares? And just like, he eats him. And I thought that was just like, because the entire movie was all like, we want to feast on brains, Eddie, we need to feast on brains, like, and if he were to let him live, I would be like, that ain't Venom. Like,
no,
that would not have worked. So I like that they just were like, you know what? Let's just have fun with it. Just
definitely
eats him.
Reminded me of Deadpool. How like this whole time,
yes,
how in the whole movie he's like, you know what? I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill Ajax. And then like
he gets the like big
Colossus is like, don't do it, and he's just like, never mind. I'm not listening to you. And
yeah,
just, like,
bam.
Yeah. So it reminds me of that. Of just like sticking
you were
to
right.
it.
Yeah.
Sticking to it. Like he wanted the brains. He got the brains. And like he's like, Eddie, you told me I can eat whoever, so I'm gonna eat him.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I thought that was really good.
I love that moment. I think that's a highlight of the movie, just moments of stuff like that.
Definitely.
I will say, I do want to point on, earlier in the non-spoiler review, I did bring up like the possible homosexual like relationship between Eddie and Venom.
Yeah.
The only reason why I say it's like that is because of the rave scene.
That is true. That's where I understood where you got that from. How like they made him seem like he was like, he said like, I'm coming out of the closet.
I'm coming out of Eddie's closet.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, I get that. Like he's literally like jumping out of the body and like going from person to person. And I was like, oh, okay. And I actually like that they kind of did that, because I was just like, well, like, maybe it's not like homosexual or like pansexual or anything, because I don't think Venoms have gender.
Right. They're not.
I don't want to get in.
sexual
I don't.
oriented,
Yeah, I do not want to get into this can of worms, because if I do, we're gonna get in trouble. So
right.
I'll just say that whoever Venom chooses to be, he is. Yeah, this fictional character that I might offend. Yeah, that's what I did like, that elements of the movie. I just had little problems, and just like logic problems in general. Like, I checked out of the movie when Carnage hacked into the internet.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? Like,
I did find that a little weird. I mean, like,
it felt very like the writer didn't know how like Cletus was gonna find Screech.
Yes, that was it. Screech. He was trying to find Cletus Cassidy's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I did feel like that was kind of a stretch, but I mean, maybe that is something that is unknown, because I know like how there's Agent Venom in the comics, and Agent Venom
That's
is like
true.
he combines with like technology, and he has like the armor and everything. So
Yeah.
it might be something.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that with the armor and technology thing, because you can literally like guns, like relatively simple machinery that you can like goo your way into.
Right.
Carnage hacked the cloud. Like,
That's
you
true.
can't like
You can't do that.
you like I'll look. I know I'm suspending my disbelief for this movie. It's not high concept. It's not meant to be really smart. It's supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get moments like that, I just get this feeling of like I could see the writer like trying to write down how we get from point A to B, and he's just literally just the writer just goes, "Fuck it," he hacks the internet. Like,
Definitely.
that's what I had a problem with. Where it's just like, okay, this is where the movie gives up, and I just have to turn my brain off now and just have fun with it. And like, I can turn my brain off, and like pretty well. I mostly do it during class, so I can like do that for some things. But you know, like, it's relatively simple that you cannot just simply. I know I'm like really getting on this about this, but it really pissed me off, and I just like it. Just I don't know. It's just one of those weird moments in the movie.
Right. I mean, to me, it didn't seem that big of a deal, because
Okay.
like, yeah, just to me, because I don't know, like, it just seemed like something like, there are those points in movies. It's in every movie where like
I know.
you kind of just can't find like the proper way to have things done.
Yeah, from
So-
point A to B.
Point A to B. So you got to have that stretch once in a while.
Mhm.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes like it doesn't.
I just
So-
felt this was one of those moments where it was such a stretch
yes.
that the rubber band broke. I was just like, okay, movie, no, like this is not right. And I actually did find out that they did that in the comics, but it was like a kid's comic
Okay.
where it was like Carnage did something like that, but it wasn't to find someone. It was literally just like this was in the '90s too, where they didn't understand computers,
Mm-hmm.
or at least like most comic book writers were just like, oh, like you put this into the porthole and it works.
Right.
But like we're in 2021, and I feel like especially like CG artists and like people who work with computers in the movie industry would be like, Mr. Writer, sir, can you like do something different? Like, no, we don't have time. Just he kicks a dude in a gas station and steals his computer, and that's how he finds the girl. Like, okay, yeah. I mean, that's just those were my pretty much big flaws with
Okay.
the movie. Was just, I don't know. It was just. I felt like there were scenes cut out for time just to get this into an hour and a half. I love the Venom and Eddie stuff. That relationship is really good. Really wish they did Carnage and Cletus Cassidy better as a villain, and the internet scene. Those are pretty much my main points of the movie, and just how really standard the rest of it is.
Yeah.
I could totally see like other people liking it. It is definitely a fun movie.
That's basically what
Yeah.
the mindset I went in with. I didn't expect it to be like kind of like informational,
Yeah.
to be something like
You're not gonna
dramatic.
find the
I
meaning of
wanted
life.
Fun. I wanted fun in there, and I had fun. So I'm just
Yeah.
glad to have that.
Mhm. So now, do you want to talk about what everybody else is talking about?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I wanted to.
Do you want to set this up?
Sure.
Okay.
So post credit scene, we see Eddie. He finally like Venom asks like that all he wants to do in life is be on a beach, put his feet in the sand, and wind his hair. Even though
Yeah.
Venom does not have hair, but Eddie finally gives Venom that dream, and they're in this like kind of like motel in a foreign country.
Undisclosed, probably Hispanic. They play telenovelas on the TV.
Yes. So
So I don't know if it's like Mexico or any just South American country or any Spanish speaking. I'm gonna say it's south of the U.S. border.
Caribbean kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been a few months after the incident with Cletus Cassidy,
Mm-hmm.
and Venom and Eddie are just sitting watching TV, and Eddie wants to know more about Venom's life, about like the stuff he knows.
Mm-hmm.
And Venom's like, I can't really do that. Like, your mind can't
Mm-hmm.
really comprehend what I can.
Your puny human mind cannot comprehend the millions of years worth of hive mind data that they have.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was like, ooh, what are they going to get into here?
Which I was very interested to see.
I did think that was a bit of like a nice little seed for the future, but it is definitely a red herring for what happens next.
For then, but instead of having Eddie know what Venom knows, they are actually transported into another universe, which is the Spider-Man universe,
Mm-hmm.
which basically sets up the
Not just any Spider-Man universe,
Tom Holland
the
Spider-Man.
MCU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it sets up definitely for Spider-Man No Way Home and the multiverse breaking and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that, which we've kind of seen with TV shows as well, with
Loki,
WandaVision,
the recent What If.
What If was a big setup for that. So
Mm-hmm.
this was out of pocket. And
Oh, this like I don't know about you, but my theater for the most part, like they laughed at most moments for the movie, but when this post-credit scene happened and you see the room start to change in like the Doctor Strange kind of way, there were dudes with their girlfriends just going what, and just crazy shit like that, and it was just everybody was like getting out of their seat. I was losing my mind. My friend was losing his mind. It was crazy. You basically see the post-credit J. Jonah Jameson scene
yes,
from
Far From
Home. Thank you. And you see Venom react to it and do the whole licking the. I like that. That was very like classic Venom with the tongue. I thought that was cool.
That, and I like how he has this like connection to
Yeah.
Spider-Man. He's drawn to him.
Mhm.
He's like kind of like it's a desire to be part of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like either like he knows Spider-Man from a past or from like
Mhm.
from Venom's
Yeah.
past, or like it's just like the connection between like the multiverse is kind of like
Mhm.
this brokenness, like their like who their personalities are being mixed up.
You know what? It may not be the case, but what I'm thinking it is like with the whole multiverse, or at least in the trailer for No Way Home. Which, real quick, what's your thoughts on the trailer?
Trailer beautiful.
Uh-huh.
It was. I mean, like it has everything but nothing at the same time, which
Yeah.
I think is the perfect way to have
Teases
trailers.
just the right amount.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Like they basically take like little scenes
Mhm.
and they have audiences just wanting more,
Mhm.
even though it's just like little bits.
Just showing the pumpkin bomb from the first
Yes.
Spider-Man movie, and also Alfred Molina as Doc Ock returning, just without one simple line, "Hey Peter." Like everybody, like at least what I do, I went back to being like what was I, like a 5-year-old watching
Yeah.
that on my screen. It was like, it's him. Like I was so happy seeing that. I have a trailer reaction that you can watch on my YouTube channel.
That along with Willem Dafoe's laugh.
Oh yeah.
His laugh, like that really like.
And just the other hints of villains.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I've heard online about the post-credit scene, or at least the idea of what this sets up. It either sets up No Way Home, which is what I'm gonna put like 80% that this is for No Way Home,
Definitely.
and that he's gonna be in No Way Home, and I'm really looking forward to that because I want to see this Venom or an Eddie. At least, I would just want to see them talk.
Definitely.
Because there's a comic that I read as a kid where it was just a simple comic of Spider-Man and Venom getting pizza, debating on which bad guys they're going to take down. And it's so simple, yet it's so Marvel, where it's just like these really big characters in these really human scenarios. I maybe don't want that specifically, but I just want something where it's either them fighting, them just mingling of some kind, just anything. I just want to see those two characters and those two actors do a scene together
On the same screen.
on the same screen in the same theater with no one. You know my point.
Yeah. So, do you think that Venom would be part of the Sinister Six? Because I feel like this whole No Way Home is going to be a Sinister Six introduction.
Do I want it? Yes. But is that the Venom they set up? No, because
No.
this Venom is he is a hero.
He is.
He's very heroic, even though he wants to eat brains. He eats chicken brains, at least
an
what they do.
anti-hero.
He's an anti-hero like Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
So setting that up, I don't think that it's gonna be the case, because also they don't want their hero Venom. This is just a business sense. They don't want their hero Venom fighting the hero Spider-Man, maybe for like a scene, but then they like work together, which fine with me.
That would be totally fine. Yeah.
I just don't see it. And plus, if like the problem with having 6 villains that you have to set up in one movie is I'm really nervous about that. But otherwise, I'm really looking forward to No Way Home. So yeah, great post-credit scene. It sets up a lot. Another thing that some people are saying is that this doesn't set up No Way Home. It'll set up Venom 3, which the villain in that would be Spider-Man.
Ooh.
You see what I mean?
That could be like maybe like Venom isn't actually going to be in No Way Home, but maybe a post-credit scene or something. And then I just think that it was beautifully done. How like they had like this multiverse break, because then it opens up the gate for having X-Men come in finally. Like like there's a reason why like X-Men weren't there before. Because they were just in a different universe. But now like the multiverse is broken. They're combining. People are moving around where they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I think like it's really opening the gates, and really like kind of like it's gonna be interesting how like the upcoming MCU is gonna be. But yeah, definitely like I could see how Venom just might not even be in No Way Home, because then like that's expecting the viewers to watch something that isn't based in MCU, which typically MCU doesn't do. Like Kevin Feige doesn't have you go watch Daredevil.
That's true.
Because Daredevil's not canon in the MCU.
They originally wanted Daredevil to be canon.
Right. They were.
It was like canon light. Like, we don't really care about those characters. But then those characters became really popular. Or at least, I'll say this. Daredevil became popular.
Definitely.
And maybe Punisher. I think people like Punisher.
I
but
love
everybody
Punisher.
else were like, you don't have to bring them back. But bring Charlie Cox back as
Charlie
Matt Brown.
Cox and John
Bernthal. Also,
Those
John Bernthal just became like a really big actor.
Yes.
Like, so if you could bring back the Punisher, you have to bring back him.
Those two plus the guy who played Kingpin.
Oh my god.
I don't know his name, but he did that phenomenally.
Oh,
he had like that.
We'll have to do a review of Daredevil on a slow week sometime.
Okay, yeah, we can.
Like, I would love to get into Daredevil, and maybe just Daredevil brackets the Netflix shows. So,
Yeah.
Because I don't want to talk about like. I mean, I like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, but Iron Fist was just. Thank God we got Shang-Chi. Let's just say that.
You have to watch that one though.
What?
Shang-Chi.
I did?
No, I have not yet.
Oh, okay.
So, I hope to watch it soon.
We'll probably do a review about it someday. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say on Venom.
Okay.
Let There Be Carnage. Yeah, I'm glad for the listeners listening in. Thank you for listening to two nerds just rumble for about, I don't know, a good 30 to 40 minutes. And, yeah, I had a lot of fun talking with you, Nick.
You as well.
Yeah. So, for those still listening, thank you for listening to Wave Radio, especially my show, $1 Million Media. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, thank you for listening, and goodbye.